So, hello everybody. First of all, I would like to introduce myself to you guys. My name is Philipp Avetisov. And the first thing I have to tell you, I'm one of the happiest person in the world by doing my job. And my job is to be a senior engineer in CYLAND MediaArtLab, which in turn is one of the most active and largest foundations developing and supporting media arts in the civilized world. And I'll give you a secret information. I was started to work here 11 years ago, like a freelance driver. So today, and I hope next few weeks, we'll talk in a broad sense about how to expand your creative space to the size of the universe. Oh yes. And specifically how to understand the art, how to understand artists, how to work in a team with an artist, think like an artist, and create a collaboration with an artist. So most of the people in the world believe technology is magic or miracle. Because when you turn on your cell phone and it does everything you can dream about, it for simple people, non-engineers, it looks like a miracle. But let me tell you, even if I know how exactly it works, I still believe that too. You can ask me why. So the answer is because of it's a real miracle to create something from nothingness. So that's why I would like to begin from the very, very beginning. And the most important thing we have to talk about is a comprehension of reality, which begins with the description of the art, of the act of creation. And an act of creation, the creative act, in fact, is life. So as everybody knows, life is a unity of opposites. And the artist, by my opinion, is one of the bravest person in the world because it makes new, builds, creates new realities. So that's what we do every day in CYLAND MediaArtLab. We collaborate with artists who creates absolutely new worlds. And this is one of the biggest difference between regular engineering, when you do your specific job, step by step, with the technical instructions, etc. Here in CYLAND MediaArtLab, you have to create close to the artist. And if you ask me, is it easy to work with an artist? I'll tell you, no, it's not. Because you have to become a part of his minds. But anyway, it's one of the most interesting things we do in our media lab. So first of all, before we turn to the attempt to sort out specific issues of interaction between an artist and the technical stuff, before we try to examine the striped pattern of blurred line of this union, let us recall the attempt to comprehend the phenomenon of creator and creation. Let me share my screen for you guys. Everybody knows Michelangelo. And it was long time ago, and legend has Michelangelo talked about sculpture as a process of liberating the form from that already exists inside the marble. So he said, I saw an angel in the marble, and I carved it until I set him free. How should we understand this? The first of all is idea. And the creator doesn't matter if it's God or an artist. It has idea before the creation act, before the act of creation. And it doesn't change during years and centuries. The first is idea. So I'm pretty sure you know Faust Goethe. And one of the general line of this book is, in the beginning was the deed. What does it mean? It's like this is the rethinking of the biblical, in the beginning was the word, which was right before the act of creation. So here in Faust, we see that the creative act and scholarly or scientific discovery is equated. And the most active century for the discovering the nature of creative act is the 20th century, of course. And it brought us an even more daring development of the idea of equivalence of the creation and the artistic endeavor. In the very beginning of 20th century, Marcel Duchamp said, "It is not artists who make a painting, but those who choose, hang, and showcase it." So being the author of the ready-made concept, Duchamp emphasized the role of an artist as a creator of new worlds or new realities by way of combining already existing objects, phenomena, and ideas. So as you can see, idea is at the first place. So at the same time, in the beginning of the 20th century, in Italy and then throughout Europe, more and more artists became fascinated with ideas of futurism. The founder of the direction was the Italian poet Filippo Tommaso Marinetti. So in 1909 in Italy and immediately after in France, his Futurist Manifesto was published, in which Marinetti glorified progress, industrial development, and mechanization of production. This idea was immediately embraced by artists such as Umberto Bocchini. It can be said that was the first face-to-face encounters between artistic creativity and technology. By the middle of 20th century, the philosophy of existentialism, in a sense, draws the bottom line onto the evolution of those ideas. Jean-Paul Sartre, in the book Being and Nothingness, assigns to a man creator a role of maker of his own essence. A human being doesn't signify anything. He will be such as he will make himself. So I'm sorry, I forgot to scroll my presentation, but okay. Here is the one of the most popular artworks. This is looks like it's a mail card of Umberto Bocchini, and it illustrates how technique, the idea of technique, comes inside artists' minds. So next, let's jump right to the 21st century. Everybody knows Banksy? This is the question.
Yes.
Okay. And one of the most popular works of Banksy is Love is in the Bean, 2018, which was sold for 1.3 million pounds. If you can see, nothing here is new. Picture frame, paper, black and red ink, and programmed shredder. But when combined, the materials and the action presents a completely new and grandiose pamphlet of human greed, avarice, and foolishness. After all, this painting was sold, like I told you, for 1.3 million pounds as the work of one of the trendiest contemporary artists. And it immediately destroyed itself right after the auctioneer's hammer fell. Do you know this story about his? Okay. So here, this is the one of the best proof the idea sets on the first place in all the times in the art history. That's what we do every day in CYLAND. Here you can see Vagaries of Affection by Anne France, which is pretty fresh artwork. And as I know, you already saw it in Yerevan. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, here is the idea of love, which can be expressed not only in words, but also in many other sounds generated in various combinations. As an image of a sound generator, the idea of a vinyl record player is used, which with its mechanics takes us a little bit back to the past. Using technology, the artist, like all his predecessors, create new meanings, new worlds, and engages in a dialogue with the past, present, and future. That's the main thing I would like to send to you guys. So about the main theme, the collaboration with artists, to us, to engineers, is the big it's a very complicated from the first step, because there are no, like I told you, there are no any straight directions. All the time you have to create close to the artist. By my practice, the understanding of the main place of idea in this process is one of the most difficult and most important. Okay, if you guys want to ask me something, feel free. Let's talk about it.
I don't think there are any questions at the moment, but I believe most of the people are here probably curious on understanding more how the collaboration between artists and engineers should happen, like on the ground. Like maybe you can give some examples that you use, across your projects.
For sure, for sure. Okay, let's talk about this sample project, Vagaries of Affection. It's like a sample for you guys. Usually, when we go through the regular way of engineering, we're trying to develop something new, something very practicable and very as much as possible, right? So here it's a little bit different. For example, as you can see, materials and technologies in this artwork is pretty simple, right? C++, Arduino, clear plastic, aluminum, lead, servo motors, stepper motors, and paper cones made from newspapers, vinyl records. That's it. Nothing complicated, nothing nothing which is like a very fresh technologies or something like that. No fancy AI, nothing. But that's not because we can't do that. That's because we choose the most straightest way to produce, to bring the idea to the reality. So be simple when you think, and think right inside the artist's idea. That's a tricky thing, but it works like that. So when you trying to offer something new, technologies, something like that, sometimes it works, sometimes it's not, and it's not your first thing to think about. The first thing to think about is what the idea exactly is. So here in this example, very simple handmade control units. As you can see, it's just motors control units and sound control unit. That's it. So that's what we do. Usually we do it ourselves. So it's handmade, or sometimes it's a little outsourced, but that's not so important. What's the first thing is maybe if I'll tell you what's the difference between the guy who opens the new technologies and the regular engineer? The same difference. The guy who brings new ideas is a creator. So we are not engineers in a regular situation. We are people who are like a material for the artist, like a marble for Michelangelo, for example, or something like that. So this is the difference. That's the answer to your question.
Thank you. Yeah, that's perfectly aligns with at least with my understanding, because like in our cases, sometimes engineering is quite complex, right? Because if you design thing, you consider so many things, but in these cases, you kind of open creator, but you rather prioritize time than trying to improve your design, make it more precise or more high quality, right?
Exactly. And next time when we'll meet for the more specific dialogue about the technical mumbo jumbo and all these things, we can talk about most interesting for engineers, about tricky things, about how to hide or open technology, depends of the idea of the artist, about the budgeting. That's a very important thing too, because we have to save money, we have to save resources, and how to go through this tricky points. So yes,
Sounds good.
first of all, we have to talk about how to stay as close as possible to the artist. That's why it's so important to stay in touch during the whole project with the artist and trying to think like him.
Great. Hey, Philip, I think we have a question. Hofsep, do you have a question? You raised your hand.
Yeah, if you can hear me. Actually,
We can hear you.
Yeah, we're debating on a artist work what we currently see on a desktop. So as to me, this is really an artistic work. I think there is nothing about the engineering. The engineering stuff here just used as a construction points for the artistic settlement. So it is not something which is anything engineering. It is just engineering stuff. Materials are used to create artistic work. Because engineering in turn, it should have three components. Usually it is a technology, it is a budget, it is a time, and it was introduced. So here totally we can see a good artistic representation. So we can see a philosophy, artistic philosophy of delivering the sound or deliver the information which is written on a vinyl and then reproduced and kind of paper which is also bringing or newspaper which is bringing the information to the masses. So the way how it could be represented philosophically, the bringing the information to the masses or to the people, it is really the artistic work. What is technical here or what is the engineering here is nothing, just a material for the artist, because it is not useful. It is not a time when it was delivered. It is not the technology of the time, and probably it is not used for the money you are spending for the technology and bringing it to the consumer. It is not the actual the value of the technology. So the engineering, it's kind of debatable. Is it engineering and the artistic work, or it's just a pure artistic work with using some materials from the technology?
That's the if to be honest, that's the one of the regular questions from the engineer's side all the time when we're talking about media art. And that's what I exactly would love to explain you guys, that the media art, it's not the engineering in the regular meaning. And you absolutely understood, you absolutely right understood me when I told you that engineers And all the technologies we use in our laboratory and in other media art projects is we're just a material. That's absolutely true. So the imagination is one of the most important things you have to switch on when you work with artists. And just believe that it's not a function, it's not a commercial situation. So that's why you just have to turn your minds this way. For example, if you want to talk about the, if you want to ask me about the price of idea, the real price of idea, let me try to explain it to you using the Banksy example. So like I told you, the picture on auction was sold for £1.3 million, right? But it was right before it was self-destroyed. So what do you think? What was the final price after it was self-destroyed? The final price was $25 million. Is it about any fresh new technologies? No. Does it contain technology? Yes. And it contained technology as much as needed to perform the artist's idea. And the idea was, you can buy the fancy picture of the trendiest artist on the auction using your own money to be more fancy, to be more rich. But it's not enough for the artist. Artists can provide you his idea that you are stupid right up to you pay your money. So here is the idea, and the engineer's part was just to make the technology as high as possible. You can Google the real situation of the auction with this picture if you never saw that. So when it was produced, the first idea is to provide the act of an artist. And we engineers just have to make it as clear as possible. That's the answer to your question.
So the part of engineering for the media art is just provide the technology in a minimal level of visibility to bring the artist's idea alive.
Not exactly. Let me try to explain a little bit more. Not in a minimum, as enough as required. That's like, just imagine the piece of marble from Michelangelo, do you remember? And Michelangelo just has to cut from the marble as much as needed to set the angel free, right? So here is absolutely the same situation. You, the engineer team, the technical staff, just have to provide as much as needed. So that's why I told you, every time you start to work with an artist, you have to start from the diving inside the idea. That's how you can understand exactly how much technology you need to apply in this or that project.
Thank you. Just,
you're very welcome.
I think just from the point of the engineering and the creativity of engineering, usually being just a provider, just being a provider of the technology is something reducing the value of creativity of engineer. So for myself, I will prefer to work on my own project, although that is not artistic, but it is my own, rather than just provide my skills, technical skills, to do something which is revealing the idea of other person, be that the artist or being that something else.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm on the front. My plane is about to be put, but I just would like to make a comment. In this sense, engineering is a very creative process. Artist is only translating an idea. The technology to be used is up to engineer.
Yes, absolutely. So that's what I told about. The engineer in media art is absolutely free to decide what exactly technology you can provide to this project. But it's not the target of our job to provide as much technology as possible to any project. That's what I told you. So, and to understand how much technology you need, what exactly kind of technology you need to use, that's up to you. So that's why you are like a co-creator, and at the end of the project you become a part of this piece, because your way of minds, your creativity was applied during the whole project process.
That was exactly I would like to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. And can I also make a comment here? Basically, I think it's a great question for the first lecture, because I also raised this question several times, that we don't have a purpose to be resources for some other's project, because each of us has a hobby, so we can contribute to our personal interests, right? So the main idea of this oral initiative, and we wrote articles about this, by the way, if you never read that. So so I tried to explain in details that the goal is to bridge the gap of engineer becoming artists, right? Because we talked many times about the benefits of engineer being having some artistic approaches, like we talked about. What's the difference between engineer who's just engineering a core, or it's an engineer with artistic approaches, right? That's a nice combination. So the aim of all of this project is to basically have some impact on the people who are involved in our community, to kind of enhance their capabilities, skills, I don't know, development, and make them more than just the engineer who can deliver services, right? Make them artists so they can be more creative, and they can communicate much better. They can express ideas from different perspectives, right? And so that's the goal. And we absolutely don't want to be resources for doing something, because we have plenty to do on our own, and certainly.
Absolutely. Two more, I think, two more very important minds. First, I think the best example of the role of engineer in our job is like an artist and director. Just imagine the cinema or theater. Can you say the artist is not a creator? No, he is. In a very qualified hands of the director of this picture, right? So, and as much as possible, you stay in connect with the director. You can provide the feeling of the sound to the screen. That's how it works. This is the first mind. And the second mind is when you do, like an engineer, when you do media art, you are absolutely free to provide your own engineering to the project. So your idea could be provided against the situation of the regular engineering when you are inside the very thin corridor of your possibilities. Because you can choose from anything you have on your table. It's up to you. So freedom and be a part of the project in 100%. That's the difference between media art engineering and regular engineering.
Okay, Philip, I think I don't know how much time we have, but I think we probably need to stress more on our kind of pain points, which is like because like the project we will do is it contains engineering, right? But engineering for us is easy, so that's why we selected open source project. Yeah, we talked about that, so we will just do that. We will just repeat that, right? But we want to concentrate on understanding the like I wrote in that article, the artistic points of view, and then start creating the basically art concept of the project. So so that's so we need to start somewhere, you know. So that's why maybe you can help us to kind of navigate and understand from which end to start building that art concept of the topics we select, because we selected the topics which are kind of interesting for us, like remember smart manufacturing and other stuff, because it's also meets with our professional interests, right? Yeah. So maybe you can tell us like how to start like writing art concepts. Because
of course. So my offer for the next meeting, and I hope we'll have 2 or 3 more, where we can dive deeper inside the nature of some projects we work on now, and for sure we can discuss the same project you working on now, right now. So we can get a few examples, projects we work on, my team, the CYLAND MediaArTlab team, and your team. And we can talk about technical, like a exact technical decisions you do all the time. Is it enough, or is too more, or how you're really free to choose by your own? That's one of the most important questions, right, for you. And the second thing is, what exactly I would love, I have to provide with this project from myself inside the artist's idea. That's what I offer to discuss about in the next meeting. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good start, because so we really need to understand that, right? Because I mean, all of us have pretty good understanding about like how things work, right? When we see like your art projects, first thing we see is how, you know, how electronics works, how mechanical is moving. That's first thing I see. So I want to change my perspective. So I want to start seeing the art. That's the point, right? Like how you can change my mind. So that's transformation that we're looking for. And then we understand that we need to change as well, right? That's a big change. And then that's why we're interested in exploring that. And so we can kind of keep kind of navigating and aligning and kind of trying to stay on the path, because this is so big area, right, that we can easily get lost in something else. Yeah.
So
yeah,
for today,
we have to get involved in the process. Sorry to interrupt. We have to get involved in the process. By the way, all engineers that were involved during 20 years of CYLAND existence all became artists, including Philip.
Great. Maybe you can change some of us over the course of this year.
One more example I would like to provide to you guys for the next for the next meeting. Just think about before we meet again. That's I think it will be more clear for the first step of understanding of this process. Just try to think about the difference between the sound wave, the wave of sound, and music. Is it the same? Oh yes, physically it is the same. But for math thinking, it's absolutely same nature. Doesn't matter what are you listening for. But for you, when you're resting at home and listening to your lovely music, that's a big difference. What are you listening to, right? But and the sound engineer who works with the musicians, it's a completely different profession than the sound engineer which who works with I don't know, acoustic building shock tests, for example. So try to think this way, and this is the direction we will move forward.
Great. Yeah, I think that's a great homework to kind of so that should open another eye, basically. Like imagine having being an engineer and with the abilities to see and understand engineering difficulties, and then at the same time understand art, right? That's probably pretty powerful. Great. Any question from the audience? Okay, I think so. This got recorded, which is great because we have a lot more people who want to see this. So I'll share this with others. And then, yeah, let's schedule the follow-up session, and then maybe we can keep that sessions more practical. And then we can, like you said, start discussing your project, starting to talk about our project I've selected, right? And maybe you can fine-tune us, and then we can find some balance. And then, yeah, so our goal is to, like Katerina said, to kind of conclude this number of sessions by September, because we want to kind of, I mean, we are engineers, we like to have everything, you know,
To be sure.
nicely planned, right? So we want to have a start
Exactly.
and then
That's
have an
what I
end,
like
and
to
then
do.
yeah. So we basically, like I said,
we have an administrator of this process of our collaboration. So I'm ready to discuss next meeting. I'm ready to discuss and to dive deep inside the project we work at the same time. I mean,
yeah,
the manipulation tool. Let's call it. Let's call it like this. So yeah, I can prepare as much as possible interesting information of our experience by working on this project, and you guys try to prepare as much as possible questions.
Perfect. Sounds good. So yeah, we can start planning for next one. The only thing is that next week we'll be very busy. So if you start scheduling, let's plan starting from week after next. Okay.
It's up to you. We're open.
Thank you, Philipp, and thank you very much, all dear friends, for today's meeting. And I want to tell you, our next meeting will be with Alexandra Dementieva, a media artist from Belgium. Alexandra is a famous artist and an extraordinary person, amazing person. And Alexandra will share about her project, which she creates both independently and in collaboration with engineers, and this will be a wonderful opportunity to gain insight into the creative process from an artist perspective, and of course ask questions. The next meeting is scheduled for 24 July. I will confirm the date later, and I will inform Andronik about the date. Yes.
Sounds great. Yeah, thank you so much. That's perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, and then yeah, in parallel, I can keep in touch with Philipp on more project related stuff, because it sounds like we can collaborate a bit, and he might help us to you know, fine tune our ideas. Okay. So since I have your contacts, Philipp, I can reach you out.
Andronik, you're absolutely free to collect questions before we meet. You can email me, you can stay in touch with me anytime. So that's how we can figure out more more deeply what we will talk about in the next meeting.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks so much. So this is, I think it's a great start. You know, the start is important. So we finally started. So I'm pretty optimistic that this will move pretty nicely, and then we will be able to figure this out. So we've been trying to answer this question of art and engineering for a few years, and then we finally starting to practically explore it. And then we have a great team, lots of people interested, and I am pretty optimistic that they will come up with something in 3 months. Yeah. Cool. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.